Wet Dry World is a level that many people simply do not enjoy. Honestly, there's very rarely a time when a water level is presented in a game focused around raising and lowering water levels that people actually enjoy it. Wet Dry World is pretty much Backtrack City. You spend more time running back and hitting switches than you actually do exploring. And because of that, the fun level sort of plummets, at least for the casual new player. That's just my personal experience, of course, but I'm sure some of you watching at least feel the same. So when you hear the phrase, Wet Dry World's negative emotional aura, we all bob our heads in solidarity because we get it. This level feels like a swift hit to the kneecap, but maybe there's more to that than just the outer sense that Wet Dry World simply sucks. Perhaps it's a combination of things attributing to our grim outlook when it comes to this level. And today, we're going a bit deeper into that concept. It's time for another trip to that cursed iceberg. So, I hope you enjoy. Wet Dry World would feel a lot different if it was blasting some more chipper music. And that goes with many situations in life. Thankfully, Raycon earbuds make that a lot easier. I've always been super meticulous when it comes to dangling headphone wires, so having no wires is one of the many reasons Raycon's earbuds are great. Their carrying case is capable of charging them 4 times on one single charge too. Not only do they sound as good as other top audio brands, but they start at half the price of other premium wireless earbuds. The Everyday E25 is their latest model that comes in a lot of fun colors, has 6 hours of playtime, and 6 different sizes to best fit your ear to give you a nice noise isolating fit. These earbuds were designed by platinum music artists and audio engineers, and celebrities like Snoop Dogg, Mike Tyson, and Brandy are obsessed with Raycons. So to upgrade your earbud experience today, click my link, buyraycon.com/SwankyBox in the description below to get 15% off your order. And a huge thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this video and supporting me as a creator. Starting off, I have to say my outlook with Wet Dry World was personally stained for me as a kid due to a hotel incident that occurred. I used some pretty biased language to describe how I feel about the level earlier, but if you feel different, I'd love to know why you like the level in the comments below. Anyways, we were traveling and staying at a Holiday Inn, I think, and Super Mario 64 was running on a standalone console near the buffet area and pool room. Honestly, we hadn't gotten a Nintendo 64 yet, so this was absolutely incredible. I can't remember if it was truly my first time playing or what, but I remember 2 things specifically. One is running into Big Boo's Haunt's piano right off the bat, because that's where the game was left off at. That freaked me out, of course. But second, I remember I left the console just for a moment to say something to my mom, and in the time I left, some other kids swiped the console. And this is where my feelings towards Wet Dry World began. Because I was a shy kid who didn't want to speak up, so I just let this kid jack my game, and he ended up in Wet Dry World. I watched him fumble around and around for what seemed like an hour, and I was kind of bummed, because at that point, we now had to hit the road and leave. When I dive into Wet Dry World, I always think back to that experience, so I kind of find it comical that a negative emotional aura is associated with this level, at least in a joking sense, because that's truly how I feel. Personal experiences aside though, the level itself is basically just a giant pool with tall gray walls on all sides. There's no escaping either because all the ramps surrounding the stage simply make you slide back in. You're trapped in this dull, waterlogged world. One of the things that most people note about Wet Dry World specifically is the skybox. It's by far the strangest skybox in the game, and it feels very out of place in comparison to the other areas. What we have is a realistic city far off in the distance under a bright, filtered sun. Of course, this is weird, because if we can see it with Mario, that means it exists in Mario's world. Or at least if we go with in-game logic. Which begs the question, what happened to this town? If we look closely in the sky, it appears to have watery ripples in it. The town itself is tinted blue as well. This entire city appears to be abandoned and underwater. And we don't know if the people even made it out. It definitely doesn't put a positive feeling on this level at all. Interesting enough, this photo is of a real city. It's a photo of Casares in Andalusia, specifically the Malada region. Why this was chosen to be the background image of Wet Dry World is unknown. And more so, why it was destroyed with a flood isn't known either. But it sets the stage perfectly because this flooded city mirrors the strange, unsettling discovery we find below this main area, within the level's own flooded town. Now, I don't know about you guys, but one of the worst places to construct a village, in my opinion, is at the bottom of a giant pipe. Especially when you know there's practically a lake above you on the other end. But alas, here we are, trapped within a town practically constructed in a cave with no visible sky. Talk about depressing. The weirdest part about this flooded town is that we're able to tell that it was recently flooded. You have to suspend disbelief because, you know, this is a game and all, but the trees and grass down here are both lush and green. If they were submerged underwater, they would be dead. Generally speaking, most trees would drown in a situation like this. To make things weirder, these trees probably wouldn't even survive if it wasn't flooded. There's no sunlight down here at all, so photosynthesis is out the window. There's tons of buildings down here that don't open either, which is a bummer because Super Mario 64 isn't really a game known for doors that don't open. We go through tons of them in the game, so having them down here is just odd. The only other door that immediately comes to mind is the one-way door at Cool Cool Mountain, but pretty much every other door can be gone through. So we have tons of locked buildings scattered around this town. And at the center of this town, we have what appears to be some sort of church or chapel, with some sort of relic in the middle. It's obvious the town was constructed around this church structure, as it is front and center. But all of this makes no sense. But perhaps, maybe that's the true reason why Wet Dry World gives off a weird aura. I couldn't help but notice that standing at the stone monument almost made it seem like the power star in the caged area was the sun for this small town. Its radiating brilliance was the only thing that sparked any amount of life into this area. But that's when my brain started to wander. So I'm in an eerie town with no inhabitants, surrounded by locked buildings, and the only way to get out of this mess is to have someone on the other side save you. This setup shows us something that is considerably sinister. So hear me out on this wild gaming tangent, because it's truly a doozy. The church or chapel has all the power in this town, simply because only through that building can someone flood the town. It's the only accessible area that leads to high ground that has a water switch. That power setup alone gives me creepy vibes. Imagine you lived in this town with others, and were drawn here by the power behind whatever the statue is supposed to represent. You gather around for your odd ceremony, and then head off to bed for the night. Except something is wrong. Every door was locked after you went to bed. In a panic, water begins to start gushing into every single building in the area, and everyone simply drowns. This bottom area isn't really a city. It's a graveyard that the upper part is built over. Truly, mass murder is the pinnacle of negative emotional aura. Now again, we don't know why this town is located down here, or even if it was truly a town. For all we know, it could have also been a prison, because honestly, it seems like one. But the fact that no one is around, and the clues surrounding this town hint at a very clear power hierarchy, leads me to believe that something bad did take place here. But of course, that's just an overanalysis of a level in a Mario game. Truly, Wet Dry World will always be one of those places that won't ever sit right with me. Or perhaps it's just that weird milk commercial from 1996 that looked like it took place here. Buh. And with that, thanks for watching guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.